It's wild card playoff week. We'll analyze all 6 games, giving our winner pick and our picks against the spread. We'll also unveil a brand new free entry contest with a prize pool of $100. We'll give you all the details coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lay.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, favorite time of the year, playoffs. Well, for most teams, fans. But anyways, let's get right into. We want to talk about these 6 games. We want to break them down. I don't know what your picks are, so we may be debating them. But before we do that, tell the viewers how they can get involved this week in picking the games.
Yeah, really excited about this, Eric. I'm glad that we're doing this. I think this is a great way to get our viewers continually involved here. So each contestant needs to pick every single game if they want to maximize their chances of scoring the most points in our game here. And it's you basically choose against the spread, ATS, right? That's what we're saying here. So, for example, in the Buffalo game, the first game that's up, the Buffalo's a 6.5-point favorite. So if you're going to go with Buffalo, they have to win by 7 points. Each game you pick correctly, you'll get 1 point for this first round this week. For each game that you win in the divisional round, you'll have the chance to get 2 points per game. In the conference championship round, that third week, then it will three points for each game, and then for the Super Bowl, you get 4 points if you pick the winner correctly there. And then at the end, kind of real clear, whoever gets the most points will win the entire $100 prize pool.
We're only going to have one winner. So if there's a tie in the total number of points between multiple competitors, we will go to a tiebreaker. And the first tiebreaker is we're going to ask the total points scored in the Super Bowl. Whoever is closest wins. If it actually has 2 people who are exact same difference, regardless of whether you're over or under, the final tiebreaker will be whoever enters a comment in our YouTube video that previews the Super Bowl. So how do you enter? You go to cbssports.com and make sure you sign up for a free account. Once you've signed up for an account, you need to then sign up to get into our pool. And here's the link. It's bit.ly/3HK2CPS. And it's going to ask you for a password. It doesn't matter what password they put in, it'll be wrong. You need to enter this password, 6 letters, all caps, FFCNFL.
Is that you have to make sure that your picks are locked at the start of the first game of the round, right? Not just the start of the first game each day. You can't do your Sunday games, wait for Sunday for the Sunday games. If there's games on Saturday, you have to put all of your games in before the first game starts on Saturday. I want to make sure that point is emphasized.
To be eligible, you have to be a YouTube subscriber because this is Subscriber Appreciation Week. No worries if you just found our channel. Go ahead, you can still participate. Just click the red subscriber button. It only takes a second, and of course, it is free. All right, Michael, let's get into the games, breaking down all 6. We're going to go over these games in chronological order. The very first game on Saturday is Buffalo, the number 2 seed at 13-3, hosting the 7th seeded Indianapolis Colts, who only got in because Buffalo beat Miami. And Buffalo, as Michael said earlier, is a 6.5-point favorite. Michael, there's no team in football that's hotter than the Buffalo Bills. And sometimes it's getting right on hot at the right time. They have won 6 straight, all by double digits, and they've won 9 of 10. I think this is a separation between the contenders and the pretenders. And in this game, Buffalo is the contender. I am so impressed, Michael, of that offense of Buffalo. The offensive line is giving Josh Allen time, and Allen has been sensational. He's led a top 3 passing offense, and he goes against the Colts, who's given up in 4 of the last 5 games a 300-yard passer. On the other side of the ball, give Indianapolis credit. They have found their running game behind Jonathan Taylor, but be careful. Look at who they have done it against. They have played Jacksonville, no offense, Las Vegas, and Houston twice. That is the 31st, the 26th, and the 30th ranked run defenses. Buffalo's better than average against the rush defense. Michael, I'm really liking Buffalo, and I think they'll cover the 6.5-point spread.
They look fantastic right now. You hit the nail on the head. There's been some discussion about how home field advantage has been meaningless this year. I think there was almost an exact tie for the home teams and the visiting teams this year. But I think in this case, with Josh Allen wanting to show that he can brush off the rust from the last playoff year, it's in his advantage to not have that pressure. And so I think the lack of fans in the stands will actually be helpful to him. He has kind of fixed the demons that he had last year in terms of passing accuracy. He's taking advantage of the separation that Stephon Diggs can give to him and others. It's possible that they will be without one of their receivers this weekend.
Cole Beasley,
which affects things a little bit. But they've figured out a balanced attack. I think Josh Allen will continue to be accurate. There's not really supposed to be any weather issues, which obviously could affect the ability to beat the spread. What I want to comment on is their defensive play, though. They were pretty banged up early in the year on the defensive side, and it really affected them, and they gave up some points early. Yeah, you can say the Colts have done some impressive things with their overtime win over Green Bay. But with what happened in that Steelers game, a pathetic Steelers team in terms of what they look like on the offensive side, and then they let them get back into that game. And then just the concern I have still of Phillip Rivers, love the guy, but I just, he has not done well in pressure situations. To me, this is actually a relatively easy call as long as Josh Allen is right. And the Colts aren't able to they've had some flashes of brilliance on the defensive side, but like you say, not really as of late. If they can't really put Josh Allen in a tough spot, I think Buffalo comfortably beats the spread. In fact, I almost feel like if Buffalo can't beat the spread, they're not going to win the game because of my concern that means Josh Allen is either out of the game or he's just not right. And obviously that would be a significant impact. Indianapolis has had, again, moments of brilliance, but this to me is a pretty safe bet.
Michael, you said that home field hasn't been that big a deal and the weather. I'm going to disagree with you, even though we're going to agree on the pick. Buffalo being at home, they are going to get 6,000 fans in there to support them. And with the weather, it's going to be cold, 29 degrees. Climate controlled Indianapolis Colts dome team playing in the cold. Phillip Rivers hasn't played a lot in the cold. The bottom line is I agree with you. The Colts are a pretender. I don't think that they are a top team. I really don't. And I think Phillip Rivers is prone to some mistakes. He hasn't had a lot of success in the postseason. So it sounds like we are going to agree on the first pick. All right, the next game I am going to be glued to. It's the Seattle Seahawks, who are the third seed. They're 12-4 against the 6th-seeded LA Rams, who are 10-6. Seattle's the 4.5-point favorite. Michael, who do you like in this game?
Well, Jared Goff is supposedly a maybe, but I don't think that's true. I think he's not going to play, and that has a huge impact in two ways, really. And I don't know that it's necessarily to Seattle's benefit because this Wolford kid, even though he hasn't, he had no touchdown passes and did throw an interception, he moves with his feet, and that's something that the Rams just haven't had with Goff. I think that's something Goff was capable of at the beginning of his career, but he hasn't done it. I think that might be a little bit of game planning. I think the reason why I'm a little tempted to go with the Rams because of the 4.5-point spread here, even though I think Seattle will still win this game, is because the Rams are going to play a game with Wolford. And even if Goff is behind the helm, because we've seen this of late, they're going to play a defensive game. And Seattle has been a low-scoring team as of late. And I just think that that is going to play into the Rams' favor in terms of keeping this game close. I still think Seattle squeaks out a 1 or 3 point game, but to cover a 4.5 point spread with really how bad Seattle has been playing of late, and even though the Rams haven't looked great, they have kept teams low scoring, which is going to be the way I think they're going to approach this game. They do have some weapons. They're going to get their receiver back, who's been, I think, off for illness, Cooper Kupp. So, and having him back, obviously, I think does make an impact in terms of their ability to get those, plays across the middle, which is where he's been great. Their running game isn't great right now. I don't think the Rams are a team that has a chance to go far in the playoffs right now. Unfortunately, even again, if Goff is back, they do have a fantastic defense, and I feel strongly that defense wins championships. Again, I think Seattle wins this game, but I don't think they cover the spread. I pick the Rams.
All right. Thank you for saying that Seattle wins the game and clarifying. So I put on the jacket so you guys know that this is both an informed decision, but a biased decision. What do you mean the Seattle Seahawks aren't playing well? They've won 4 straight. Their defense looks very, very good. They have kept their opponents underneath 20 in the last 6 games. That defense is greatly improved. Now, full disclosure, I'm very concerned about Jamal Adams being out. But if I was a Ram fan, I'd be far more concerned about Jared Goff. Now, listen, your Wolford guy, Michael. Here's a stat for you. Playoff experience, Russell Wilson, 34. John Wolford, not only 0, but NFL experience, 1. And what happened in that one game? They won 18-7 against the Cardinals, in which their defense scored half the points. A safety and a touchdown. He was able to game manage it. The Rams ran the ball 30 times to 22 passes. What happens if they get behind and he's forced to throw the ball? I want people to remember one thing. If you're like Michael and you're saying, gee whiz, Seattle could win, but will they win by 4.5 points? Because if you're a Seahawks fan, they're the cardiac kids. It feels like every one of their games are close. Look, they're 12-4, 12 wins. 10 of the 12 wins, they have won by more than 4.5 points.
Yeah, good point, but I think you need to give more credit to Sean McVay. I know he's made some mistakes in terms of overthinking games, but he's continually kept them in games where they probably haven't really been able to. Okay, you're right. The Seahawks have won their last 4 games after losing to the Giants in pathetic fashion. One of those games was the Jets. The other one was the Washington football team, who they should have lost to. And they actually looked pretty bad against the Niners this week when they needed to get a win. So I don't think the Seahawks look great. They win this week and lose next week. However, I still think that it is a really good chance that the Rams keep this game close.
Let's go on to the last game on Saturday. The Washington Redskins.
Washington football team, excuse us.
So, excuse me, the Washington football team is 7-9. They are hosting the 11-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the home team is the underdog, 7.5 points. Michael, I'm just going to come out and say it. The Washington football team is a playoff fraud. They are a playoff fraud, not because they don't have a mascot, not just because they're 7-9. Heck, the Bears are 8-8 and they're in the playoffs, but it's how they got that 7-9. 7 wins. 4 of them came in the division. They were 4-2 in the division, and that division is awful, including 2 wins against the Dak Prescott less Cowboys and 2 wins against the Eagles. And don't get me started on that last Eagle game where the Eagles absolutely tanked it at the end so they could move up from the 9th pick to the 6th pick. Okay, back to the Washington football team. 4 of the 7 wins in the division. Another win against the Cincinnati Bengals without the Joes, Burrow or Mixon, and one win against the San Francisco 49ers who are missing so many players. This is only like a half-hour show. So I'm just not sold on Washington. You know who I am sold on? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look, a lot of new moving targets on offense brought in. And it took them a little time, Michael, to gel and get together. And guess what? In the last 7 games, that offense has averaged a whopping 35 points. Do you know what that corresponds to? That corresponds to almost exactly when Antonio Brown joined and when Chris Godwin got healthy. All right, the last comment is there is a concern. Both teams have wide receivers who are maybe out or play injured. Terry McLaurin and Mike Evans. I'm not worried about the Buck offense. What I'm worried about, though, is the Washington football team offense. Why? Because the Bucks defense is the #1 rush defense. So they're going to be forced to pass. But pass to who? McLaurin is not 100%. If you watch the game, he is not 100%. So I really think that I have a lot of confidence, not only that the Bucks are going to win, but they're going to win well more than the 7.5 point spread.
No, I agree with you that Tampa Bay looks great. They're kind of similar to Buffalo. They're really the strongest looking team, in my opinion, in the NFC right now. And I think it's partly because finally Bruce Arians and Tom Brady have gotten on the same page, and that has been huge. I completely agree with you. Losing Mike Evans, if he doesn't play, it looks like he probably will get on the field this week, is not anywhere near as much of an impact as McLaurin being not there for Washington. The Washington football team's defense, is pretty solid, and they could give Tom Brady some fits. He really struggles with pressure around his feet. At least historically, he's done that. But Tampa Bay won't, put that situation heavily because they'll be able to run the ball, given the lead they should have in this game. I don't know if Washington's going to score. They'll have to get a defensive score. So I think it should be pretty easy for Tampa Bay to hit this spread. The only way I could see them not is if they have a 2 touchdown lead relatively early, and for some reason shut it down, and then Washington gets a last minute touchdown and makes it a 7-point game, which would be really frustrating for fans. But I'm going Tampa Bay.
Folks, if you made it this far into the video, please smash that like button, and don't forget to hit the red subscriber button if you haven't yet. In recognition of Subscriber Appreciation Week, all of the fun giveaways, you have to be a subscriber.
Yeah, and we want to hear from you. Please comment. Not only tell us who your picks are and why, but tell us what you want to tell us about the show, and get in the habit of starting to comment right away, because that's the champion could come down to the first one that Super Bowl week who comments. So it's a good practice to start now.
All right, so let's get back into the game. We move, Michael, from Saturday to Sunday, and the good games keep on coming. The first game is the Tennessee Titans. They're the home team. They're both 11-5, but they are underdogs at 3.5-point favorites. Underdogs to the Baltimore Ravens. Michael, how do you break down this game? Because I got to tell you, I have no idea who's going to win this one.
Yeah, no, there's a reason why this spread is close. Baltimore obviously has had to win. They haven't necessarily had the toughest second half schedule, but part of the reason they're 11-5 is because they had one of the hardest schedules in the league to start the year, and they had a rough start. These two teams played last year in the playoffs, and if I recall correctly.
Yep.
And Tennessee took care of business there and knocked Baltimore out right away, and that was because they took advantage of the Henry train that is moving well right now. He continues to look fantastic. That being said, that defense is very poor, and even though Houston, who really gave Tennessee a good challenge this week, has Deshaun Watson at the helm to really give, any team a challenge. For tennis, all year long, Tennessee's defense has just not really shown up the way that they need to in order to be a playoff team. I've said it, I'll say it again. Defense wins championships, and Baltimore by far has the better defense. unless Tennessee can find a way to disrupt Lamar Jackson, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Baltimore not only wins this game, but I think covers the spread. Hard to say that with how Derrick Henry's playing, with how strong the Tennessee offense should and can be, but I just don't see Tennessee stopping Baltimore at all.
So on Saturday games, I was very confident. I'm not confident in this game, Michael. I was really torn going back and forth. You are so right when you say Tennessee has a bad defense. Do you know, since going all the way back to week 2 of the NFL, that's 15 games Tennessee has played. So only counting the games against professional teams, so I'm not counting the Jacksonville game. Those other 14 games, they have given up an average of 30 points a game. This team cannot stop anybody, and Baltimore has exposed really bad defenses. Now, I want you to pump the brakes on how great Baltimore is. As Michael said, they had a tough early season, which was rewarded by a really light late season schedule. So they've come in winners of 5 straight, but they've beaten the 1-win Jacksonville, the 4-win Cincinnati Bengals without Joe Burrow, and the 6-win Giants and Dallas Cowboys. Here's the deal. When these two teams have played, it's been Tennessee lately. Tennessee beat them in overtime in week 10 of this season, and Tennessee beat them in the playoffs last year, 28-12. How did they do it? They did it because the Ravens early in the game turned the ball over. Yeah. And then the Titans turned the ball to Derrick Henry, who just gets stronger and stronger as the season goes along and as games go along, as the defense gets tired. If you can assure me that Baltimore does not turn the ball over, I would agree with you on this Baltimore pick. If they do and Tennessee can get a lead, I really like Tennessee. I was so torn. When I came up with the spreads before, I said this was going to be almost a pick 'em. Maybe Baltimore by 1 or 2. Since it's more than a field goal, right now I'm going to go with Tennessee, but I might change my pick, and if I do, I will put it in the comment section before the game. Really tough game. Michael, can you say anything else to sway me more to Baltimore?
No, I actually agree. This is the hardest one, in my opinion, in terms of my decision what to go with here. 3.5 is it's more than a field goal, and so that's enough of a reason to because of the fact that this could be a pick'em game. But I don't think you hit the nail on the head in terms of talking about turnovers. That is the differentiator, but that could be the differentiator in any of these games. And so if you're going to rely on turnovers, I just don't think that's a sufficient reason to pick Tennessee. And so, Baltimore is going to be more thoughtful to that. I think Lamar Jackson's going to run wild this game. He has stayed healthy all year long by not having to run too much. Now he can do it. Now he will do it.
All right. So the next game, the afternoon game on Sunday, is the New Orleans Saints, the 2 seed, is hosting the Chicago Bears, who are 8-8. New Orleans comes in at 12-4. Michael, how do you break down this one?
I actually am really nervous. I can't believe this is a 9.5 point spread. As somebody who kind of has thought that New Orleans can go deep because their defense at times has looked really, really strong, I'm still nervous that they're not clicking at full cylinder. Yeah, they'll have Michael Thomas back. Yeah, Alvin Kamara is going to be able to play this week because this game got scheduled for Sunday instead of Saturday, if you follow how those protocols work.
Talk about lucky.
Yeah, which helps immensely. But Michael Thomas, we can't be sure he's going to be 100%. And guess who else isn't 100% right now? Drew Brees. I think we don't know for sure what we're going to get out of Drew Brees this year in the playoffs. We know what we got out of him historically. But New Orleans, unfortunately for New Orleans fans, has been a tough playoff team in many years past. They've had some tough breaks. I don't think they're going to lose this game, but I don't think they're going to cover the 9.5 point spread. Chicago's offense looks great. They have figured things out. Yeah, Mitchell Trubisky could not show up on Sunday, which would really change things. But they're running the ball, they're distributing the ball, and they have a good defense. I mean, this is a team that shouldn't be 8-8 on paper. They should be better than that. So I think this is going to be a close game, unless, I guess, like you've said, turnovers play a major factor in this game. I see this game being close, and I see New Orleans fans biting their fingernails at the end. I think it could be a 3 and definitely a 7-point or less game. So for me, this is Chicago.
Yeah, I hear you. 9.5 points is a lot of points to give up. And this was not an easy pick for me. But yeah, I'm giving it up, Michael. I'm giving them the 9.5 points. This is two teams that are going in opposite directions. New Orleans has won 9 of the last 11 games. What were their 2 losses? Only by 3 points, and one of them 3 points to Kansas City. You can't blame them in that. Chicago, do you know Chicago was 5-1 this year? Since they've gone 3-7. I don't think they're a good team. I know you say that they should be better than 8-8. Well, they're not. I think that they are an average team. The one thing that people can get excited about, it looks like David Montgomery is really running the ball well. But remember, in those 3 wins that they've gotten when they're 3-7, they went against Jacksonville, Houston, and Minnesota. Well, 2 of those 3 are bad teams, and all of those 3 teams have bad rushing defense. So what does that mean? That means that they're going to have success against New Orleans, who has a very good rush defense. They're going to have to rely on Mitchell Trubisky. I don't know about you, but I'm not comfortable relying on Mitchell Trubisky. You know what quarterback I am relying on is Drew Brees. What are you so harsh on Drew Brees for? The last 3 games, the Saints have scored 38 points. The 4 previous games, 24 points. Do you know what the difference is? That was when Drew Brees came back. Drew Brees is back in the last 3 games, scoring 38 points and getting Kamara back and getting Michael Thomas back. And I agree with you, Michael. We don't know how healthy Michael Thomas will be, but I think he'll be healthier than he has been. That's why they shut him down. So I think the Saints, for the first time, might have all of their complement of weapons on offense. I think they can cover a 9.5-point spread here at home.
I don't know. You must not be watching those games. To me, Drew Brees doesn't look 100%. And so I would challenge you to go back and look at some of the film. He's really taken advantage of the fact that he's had a strong run game the last few games, and that's smart game planning, and also some poor defenses. So I'm not as sold on Drew Brees having returned to 100% form post his injury, and that's because I've also had rib injuries before, and I know how it affects people.
Yeah, I think you just said you must not be watching these games. Translation, I forgive you for your ignorance, Eric. Let's move on to the last game. The 3rd-seeded Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 12-4, they host the Cleveland Browns, who are 11-5. Pittsburgh is a 3.5-point favorite. Michael?
I think Pittsburgh's going to finally come back to where they have been early on the season. They really weren't an 11-0 team before they started their losing streak, but they did have that record, and they deserved it, I guess, because that's what they accomplished. Cleveland, on the other hand, did have some good weeks in there and started to show some capability, but they have a few injuries, and I think that's something that really needs to be called out. One of their defensive ends, Vernon, who was kind of been their 2nd best defensive end, just tore his Achilles towards the end of this last game. That is huge. I think Hayden's going to be back for Pittsburgh, so their defense should be as strong as normal. Really, all that really needs to happen here is Pittsburgh needs to figure out how to have a balanced offense, which they haven't had, and not just rely 100% on the short pass. Well, guess what? They've started to do that a little bit. They started that against the Colts, when the Colts were basically saying, go ahead, throw the ball deep. And then they did. And Deontay Johnson now has 3 long passes in the last couple of games, and that opens things up. I think Pittsburgh's going to take care of business. Cleveland's going to show that they're not a playoff team. I've been pretty high on Cleveland. I'm happy for Cleveland's fans, but I don't think that they're going to win this game, and I think Pittsburgh is going to cover the spread. Eric?
Wow, Michael, Cleveland is not a playoff team, but you make excuses for the Chicago Bears. You got two teams that are just struggling. Pittsburgh Steelers have lost 4 of 5, and the Cleveland Browns have lost 2 of 4. You know what my tiebreaker is which team has basically figured out how to beat the other team. I mean, the Steelers almost beat the Browns with nobody, with so many key players out, not only on offense with Roethlisberger, but a bunch of players on defense who are key. So also they torched them at home, 38-7 earlier in this season. Do you know Cleveland hasn't won a game in Pittsburgh in 17 years? They play every year. There's 0-17. So I do think the Steelers are the better team. It concerns me that they've averaged only 55 yards on the ground in their last 6 games. I understand what Michael was saying when he says he wants a balanced offense, but I just think the Steelers are the better team, and 3.5 points is enough where I feel comfortable that they're going to cover.
Yeah, and I mean, again, just go back and look at Cleveland's last few games when there has been pressure on, real pressure on Baker Mayfield, who, I think Baker Mayfield kind of gave a showing of a potential comeback player of the year until they played the Jets and needed to win. And this last game when they played basically, like you say, a resting Steelers team and almost didn't win that game. And so, that I think shows to me that Cleveland's not quite there yet. They could be a couple years away. I think this Vernon loss, I mean, if you kind of pay attention to what they were able to do recently on the defensive end, I think it's a big loss. And so it's something to not discount.
So that is our slate of games. This is Subscriber Appreciation Week. A lot of fun things. We've got a FanDuel show and a DraftKings show. If you haven't yet, check out our player tournament, where we ask who is the best player who's played this year, and consider all the players in their prime. We'll put in the comment section a link to that poll. Until we see you next week, take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.